The National Investor's motto is, you can get information anywhere, but here you get knowledge. And for well over 40 years now, Chris Temple has imparted that knowledge, an unparalleled, understandable, and useful take on the big picture of the markets and of our world. He has been out in front of what you see on the news every day on many themes. More, Chris has taken this macro knowledge and his unique analytical abilities to uncover unique investment opportunities. Often, he has guided his members to big winners in resources, biotech stocks, and more. His talents and connections often getting him into ground floor opportunities before they are discovered. Without further ado, here is Chris with today's topic.
All right, folks, we're going to get right into it in this recording with Victor Cantore. He's the CEO of Amex Exploration that just came out with some great news this week, right before our Memorial Day here in the U.S. Victor, how you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm doing great.
Well, there were some champagne corks popping up there, I think, this week. We're going to get to that in a second. But
Yeah.
folks, just as a recap, remember that Amex Exploration has been one of my recommendations for quite a while. Every now and then we do an update with Victor. So, here's all of their contact information again on the screen. Make sure that you get boned up on this story because people are being forced now into realizing that, holy cow, this is a lot better and bigger and more serious than we were thinking not a year ago. Um, Victor and I will be having a big discussion on the news this week, some of the future plans. Of course, some of those may be making forward-looking statements on his part or mine. So be mindful of that as you see here on the screen. But Victor, backing up last year, when you came out with your initial mineral resource estimate at Perron, some of the whisper numbers thought it was going to be a higher number initially, or if not a really gaudy one. And there were some people that sold the stock on the news. Recently, with the news that's come out, and especially when you started to add some economics to that with the PEA that followed, people have been incrementally getting back in. The gold price is giving you a nice tailwind too. But you got some pretty nice vindication on Wednesday this week on the 21st when you announced a very sizable increase in the mineral resource estimate at Perron. You're up to 1.6 some odd million gold ounces, and that's in the measured and indicated category and at a hell of a nice grade that you don't see in the majority of resources these days.
That's correct. If I go back to the old resource, for me the most disappointing part about it, it's not the number. The number is fine. It's you could have built into a mine anyways, but the number is you want confidence, right? So you want the highest amount in the measured and indicated. So when you look at what happened before and now, our measured and indicated actually increased by 172%. That was really the big difference. And you're looking at 6.14 grams per ton. So it's really a high grade mine. And within that, the Champagne zone, 831,000 ounces. 831,000 ounces at more than half an ounce. So
It's a hell of a number.
quite impressive.
Well, and you've always known, and from a lot of the drill holes there in the last few years, that every now and then you get these really gaudy drill hits, and that's one thing. But when in a resource estimate you can string them together sufficiently so that the overall grade in that zone is half an ounce per ton, that's phenomenal, and that's you don't see many of those on the planet these days, especially in a place that's an established gold camp where people theoretically think all that kind of stuff has already been gotten, in recent years. Well, it hasn't at Perron.
No, exactly. Yeah, so we're definitely, I mean, the land package is still very big. Like the original Perron project is 45.6 square kilometers. We've added another 152 square kilometers. It's 197 square kilometers. We've basically all those numbers. We've basically explored on very small of it. I can almost say we're scratching the surface here for there's a lot of exploration potential, but the focus and the resources right now are really going to go into developing this project. So we're going to start moving forward on all the necessary studies and all the necessary environmental permits to move this forward. And we're planning to do this in a staged fashion in order to try to get to production as fast as possible and with the lowest cost possible.
Now, you announced last month that you've already hired a firm to come in and start do the environmental baseline work in and around the area that will comprise the initial, mining footprint,
That's correct.
so to speak. So tell us about what they're going to be doing.
Sure. So I'll tell you our plan. So what we want to do, what we want to do now is apply for a bulk sample permit. That should be in very soon. We're expecting to get this permit either by the end of the year or early in 2026. That would take 1 year of construction, and we would be in the ore sometime in 2027. Then we transport it out to a mill. What's important to know is that the actual underground development that we're going to be doing it with is the same infrastructure as you mine that underground area, the Champagne zone. Anyways, it's not like you have to do something different. So the minute you build that, it's something that would come off your capex on future development. So that's one part. What we'll be doing simultaneously soon. So we've got this new resource. Now we want to put a new PA. The PA we're going to do this in a hybrid fashion where we would toll mill the most likely the first 4 years. And again, these are forward-looking statements. I'm coming out with them, and I just don't rely on this. It's we'll definitely have studies. We'll definitely have studies to put them out. But the plan, it's our plan. So it would be 4 years of toll milling, and the balance of it would be your full-on mine. The minute you get that PA out, you start with a feasibility study. That feasibility study for only for toll milling. So it should be fairly quickly. Then, like normally, a feasibility study with a full-on mine should take you at least a year to a year and a half. This will most likely take only half a year because it's only the toll milling. So you're not dealing with the open pits, you're not dealing with tailings management facility, you're not dealing with the mill. Um,
So,
then you
Victor, when we talk about the toll milling, is a reminder to people who aren't as familiar as some of others in our audience, and folks, in the last couple of years, you have to scroll down on my YouTube channel, but wait, just in April, Victor and I did a discussion of this massive increase to the overall property package that Amex has. So check that out. And there are other earlier videos as well. But basically, what we're talking about here is an area that's got some of the best infrastructure in the entire world for mining. And even now, with gold, 3,300 some odd dollars as we're recording this, and a lot better, behavior in the industry among equities increasingly at last and so forth, there's still a fair bit of infrastructure and milling capacity in your neighborhood not being used. And
absolutely.
right. And so it's going to be nice to keep costs down and give you an initial shot of revenue and confirm, I would assume, the metallurgy and recovery and all that kind of stuff that you've already done work on a small scale, confirm that in the bulk sample scenario, right?
Oh, absolutely. That's going to help out on the reconciliation. What also happens when you do toll milling or especially with this Champagne zone, because if you look at the resource, half of the measured and indicated resource actually comes from the Champagne zone.
Right.
What's important, you start mining that, you start toll milling that, it'll give you all the information that you need to properly size your mill. After a couple of years of mining that, you'll definitely be able to size up the property. And you know what happens sometimes, that where other mines, the rock is not behaving like it's supposed to, and they've improperly sized the mill. So we will be de-risking it from a technical point of view and also from a financial point of view because the money's coming, your capex is coming in incrementally versus it being all at the same time.
Great point. And over again,
Yeah.
with a lousy market reaction and getting it wrong, and you proved a big step this week that the market got it wrong last year. You've made the point that as you bring out a resource and now you've increased it substantially, it's not just because you want to throw numbers out there. You're bringing out a resource that can be developed into a mine. And that's the whole point anyway, or
That's
supposed to
correct.
be, you know?
That's correct. Yeah, like I said before, even the numbers we had before was a mine, but to
Yeah.
convert it into a mine, you need to have numbers that you can trust more. And where you trust the numbers more is in the measured and indicated.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
that's
and again, for the uninitiated out there, there's three different categories of drilling. You have inferred resources where you can put holes here and there, and provided there's other factors that suggest more so than not that what's in between those holes should be about the same, that's inferred, and we know what infer means. That means sort of suggests, uh, but it's not as certain. Measured and indicated, you have the holes closer together and now you've measured it. Now that is indicated. And of course, you get proven and probable, which really in recent days, a lot fewer companies even get to that stage because it's not necessary, especially with the kind of an ore body that you got. I don't know that you need to go beyond that. You're going to be able to start doing your bulk sample.
yeah, the bulk sample, yes, but for actual mining, it's we will be converting the measured and indicated into proven and probable.
Eventually.
Most of the time, you're measured and indicated if they're properly spaced. They do convert over into proven and
Right.
probable. Like in a feasibility study, you don't need it in a PA, but in a feasibility study, it will be converted. And when you look at the density of the drilling, like the spacing of the drilling. I'm really like this is definitely forward looking, but I'm really convinced that a good majority of the M&I ounces will be put into a proven and probable.
Oh, I would suspect so. Now, it's taking one step backward now, because I want people to re-embrace the overall picture of Perron. So you've got basically two paths that you're going to be going down here simultaneously. You discussed that earlier in the year as far as your game plan, and I know you've reiterated that with the news that came out this week. So you're not resting on even that big increase in the mineral resource estimate that we just heard this week. There's undoubtedly going to be added to. So you're going to do more drilling to expand that resource, but also you're going to be doing some additional step out drilling and regional work on a lot of targets. And I remember it was what, 2 summers ago that all the fires were up there in Quebec?
That's right.
And one of the crazy, as it turned out, the advantages of that is that took care of a lot of work that you would have had to do otherwise because a lot of the trees that had to be logged and everything after the fact, a lot of stuff now is visible that wasn't apparently visible before. So you've got more exploration targets because of that, because of some other previous step out holes. So give us a little flavor for what you're going to be looking for specifically. I mean, it's almost in relative terms, at least a no-brainer that more development drilling around the existing resource is going to expand it. I think that's
Yes.
pretty much a given. But what are you salivating at beyond that as far as where else you're going to be putting some holes this year?
Oh, absolutely. We're definitely regional drilling because you're going to get really good news coming out on the development side, on production side, and on drilling. I want to find new zones, other zones. If you go on our for example, our PowerPoint where we show the new acquisition in one of the slides, it actually our geologists are suggesting that the zone that we have all our gold right now, which is called the Beaupré block on the Quebec side, they see a mirror image on the other side, on
Right.
the Ontario side. So it's going to be really interesting to get in there and start drilling that. When you're seeing the same type of rocks, it'll be really interesting. So that's what we're really concentrating on is finding another one of these Beaupré blocks out there because think that down the road you're going to have a full production going on there. Like you have it's easy to just to truck it over and expand everything. Like right now, I mean, we can end up owning a camp. I mean, we own 197 square kilometers. That's quite a bit of land.
And it was before that 40 some
45 square kilometers.
45 square kilometers to almost five times that, better than 4x. Um,
Yeah,
so, all right, so that's pretty cool. So, some of that new ground is what you're going to be targeting this year.
absolutely,
Great,
absolutely.
great.
Uh,
That's exciting to hear. I want to get back after that, I want to get back real quick before we wrap up to more of the development of the existing resource. So, you're going to be working on a PEA.
that's correct.
That will update last year's numbers with the larger resource, higher grade, more M&I, et cetera. Tell us what's more specifics of the work that the environmental study is going to do that you announced last month, because I know that ultimately, when you before you get your permits for the bulk sample and stuff, you're going to have this kind of thing in hand. So, what are the environmental considerations near here? What do you have to prove to the province to make them happy?
Yeah, so one of it's always one of the biggest concerns is always if there's any lakes, rivers,
Mhm.
or streams that you're affecting. Again, it's on our site, on our PowerPoint. You can see where we show the different zones. It's pretty dry land. There is some wetlands, but there's no development right now in that area at all. We have no zones in that area at all. So we're going to be trying to prove to the government, like you have to look at all if you're affecting any wildlife, if you're affecting any water, the you need to do tests on the overburden. When you're displacing it, what happens to it? So it's basically in preparation for our environmental impact assessment because we definitely want to move forward with development.
Okay, and so this is going to be in preliminary to the actual
Yeah, it's
environmental
part of it.
impact
Yeah, it's
assessment.
part of it. It's part of it. Absolutely. There's even tests that there's a whole bunch of tests that need to be done. There's some drilling that gets done also to see the effects of when you're drilling underground, if you're hitting any water systems down there, and how to mitigate any risks to the environment. It's really that. And you're in an area where there was already an existing mine. When you're talking about mostly big part of it is an underground mine. Your impact to the environment is really mitigated.
Right, right, for sure. Okay, good stuff. I'm excited to see the new PEA come out, and I think people are going to take a very serious second look at Amex and realize that as you insisted all along, and as I insisted, and others that really know your story deep down have
Yeah.
insisted, this is a lot bigger and deeper story, and you just added a lot more meat to that argument this week. Before I let you go, just a quick segue. You've got a new prime minister. Oh, actually, I should say
Correct.
renewed or a strengthened prime minister. He's not a caretaker anymore. He's in on his own right, Prime Minister Mark Carney. And I was just as I said to you before we were recording at the SME conference, Critical Trends in Mining Finance, put on by the New York section of the SME every year. They had a capacity crowd. And unlike the typical investor type conference, these are all people who are analysts, public policy people, including several from Quebec, by the way, and others who were there. And overwhelmingly, the sense seemed to be that, contrary to what people have heard or believed or whatever in the past about Carney being anti-development and so forth, and it still remains to be seen what actually gets implemented. There are a lot of reasons to explain, and I'm explaining this separately in a National Investor and a couple other forums in the days immediately ahead. There's a lot of reasons to believe that he's going to be far more serious than a lot of people thought was going to be the case in developing Canada's resources, to the point of, and I was speaking to an attorney from up there, where there is actually some seriousness about extricating the federal government pretty much completely and leaving everything up to the provinces, which would remove one whole layer of
That's
delays and regulation that unfortunately we're not doing really here to that extent in the US. What are your thoughts on that? How do you see the landscape unfolding?
Yeah, it's instead of having two layers of government, you're better off having one layer. So overlooking a permit. So you give everything you need to give to one government. Otherwise, and usually the on the federal side, it was usually you had to give. It was they get involved in anything that relates to water, meaning lakes, rivers, streams.
Right.
If there's any fish habitat. So now at least you would have one layer, because basically you have to start with one, finish one. Once that's finished, then you start the other one. Now you could start everything simultaneously at the same time. I
Yeah,
mean, when we do studies all at the same time, but then you
right.
have to do one, send it off. Yeah, I think it makes a lot of sense. It really does make a lot of sense. It's not see fast tracking. It doesn't mean you're not doing the work. You're gonna end up doing the same work that needs to be
Sure.
done. It's just done in a more efficient manner. That's really it's streamlined basically. It's streamlined, but you're still doing the same work, which
Yeah.
is which is fine. It's just before I couldn't start. It was needless to start one without starting the other one first, and then it's you're overlaying things where here let's get it all done once and let's move this thing quicker.
Well, it's certainly going to be a better situation. And I mean, this has got a lot of moving parts and is a story for another day that I'll be covering separately. But
Yeah,
I think that the overall environment, if you go back to when President Trump down here was talking about, acquiring Canada as a 51st state and all this other silly stuff, and wondering about just how strong Canada was going to be and how Canada would react, I think truly. And I'm much more of a supporter of President Trump than not on the majority of issues. Don't misunderstand, folks. But I really think that for all of your benefit up there, he's awakened a sleeping resource giant in Canada. And it may be well to your benefit as well as to the benefit of investors who get into the better stories up there. And I think you're one of them. So keep up the good work, Victor. Glad you could join me.
yeah, yeah. No, thanks. We'll get together again as we file the permits
Sure.
for the bulk sample. We'll get together, and so I can give you a better timeline and how it's working going forward.
Great. And folks, a reminder, here's how to keep up with Amex Exploration. Make sure you do that. Kick the tires. This is one of the leading stories on my recommended list of exploration companies that I think have got the better stories and the better upside. And last but not least, if you're not already on my mailing list, if you're not watching this video, having first gone through one of my other connections, if you just stumbled across it or whatever, make sure you get on my list because from time to time, even aside from these videos, we'll give you update on Amex as well as all the other stories that we cover. So, Victor, good to see you, and hopefully it's not
Great.
long before we see one another in person again.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll see each other soon. Thanks for having me.
All right, take care.
For much more of the National Investor's cutting-edge content and actionable investment opportunities, make sure to subscribe to Chris's free content at nationalinvestor.com. And don't forget to like this video and subscribe to this channel too. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.